Welcome to Speak Out, Stand Out by Green Communications, where we're learning how to help our kids become better communicators. We believe our voices are the strongest asset we have, and our mission is to empower the next generation to use their voices to make a difference in the world around them. Whether you are a parent, an educator, or are just invested in today's youth, we hope this podcast will help you build confidence in our future, one voice at a time. Welcome back to Speak Out, Stand Out. I'm Elizabeth Green, and today's guest is Claire Cetti. Claire found herself experiencing frequent conflict, overwhelm, and anger early on in her journey as a mama of four. I know many of you have found yourself in the same situation. However, through years of personal work, Claire changed the parenting patterns that were not serving her or her family to become the calm, confident mama that she is today. This journey is what brought her to parent coaching. And Claire says what took her years to accomplish, she now shows other families how to do in a much shorter period of time. So Claire, we're super excited to have you here today. Thank you for jumping on with us.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
So Claire, obviously you said, you went through a personal journey to become a calmer parent. And you said this took years of practice and what we're going to dive into, some of the tips and strategies that you've learned along the way. But what we really want to talk about is when we're saying being calm parents is yelling, right? There's a lot of us out there they're yellers. When we feel frustrated, we feel overwhelmed, we raise our voices along with our blood pressure, and it's not a helpful way to communicate with our families, and obviously teaching our children to communicate in the same way. So really excited to hear about your experience and your tips and strategies for us. So first of all, I guess if you are a yeller, right, you're not alone, right? Let's just start with that. If anybody's listening and you're like, yep, that's me. It is me. I'm saying that. We're not alone here, right?
Yeah. First and foremost, when you said, listening to you talk about being the calm, confident mama, and I definitely am more calm, more confident today than I was 20 years ago. And this is where my journey started. My kids are all older now. I've got 4 kids at ages 20 to 33. So I've been on this journey for a while. But really, the idea is that I'm still not a perfect parent. It's not perfection, right? I still can lose my cool. I can still get really upset. It's the idea of how do we navigate those triggers? How do we navigate those moments so that we can approach our kiddos in a calmer way that keeps the relationship intact. And so, and also the other thing I'd love to point out is the work that I do is about, let's never yell, because that's the whole goal. Because I like to say, I call myself the yell less mom coach. Because really it's about yelling less. I mean, because of that high expectation, which is one of the reasons why we're yelling. We have such high expectations for ourselves. We put pressure on ourselves and all of those things. And then when we blow it, there goes the critical thoughts, the guilt, I'll never get this thing right. So I really want to make that realistic expectation that, sometimes you may blow it. You might yell, or you might say something you wish you hadn't said. That's the beauty of repair. And we talk about how do we repair those ruptures, because in those repairs is where we learn and we grow, and that's where relationships can get stronger also. Yeah. So I just really it's really important to me and for others to hear that it isn't about perfect parenting. Being a calm, confident mom does not equate with perfection.
Right. Because there is no such thing as perfect parenting, right? We're human beings. We're flawed in so many ways. And it's also yelling less, I think, is also, it just sounds more attainable. I have more confidence in myself already with that idea, as opposed to thinking of never yelling again. Right. So I like that approach.
Yeah.
So, all right. So just to kind of dive into it then, how do we yell less?
Okay. Well, let me just start with sharing it's important. I started sharing the story about 3 or 4 years ago, pretty openly. But really my journey started literally 20 years ago. I remember the day. It was July 2003. And the rage. I mean, I was a new mom. I had 3 kids under the age of 5, and my stepdaughter, who was 11 at the time. And I remember the day. I remember I remember what time it was. But I was on the phone, and I was next thing I knew, the phone was flying across the room. I mean, it was, and I'm like going, did I just do that? At the same time going, oh my gosh, the phone hit the wall. I mean, I remember looking down at my kiddo who was 5 at the time and the eyes looking up at me. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm not a mom who cares. Like, I literally looking at him, I'm a mama who scares. And that really is kind of where I knew something had to change here. I can't have this angry household. I'm so frustrated and angry, and so really, what I began with at that time, because we didn't have Google at that time 20 years ago. I didn't have Dr. Shafali. I didn't have so it's like, what do? I just didn't know how. But what I started with is I knew what I wanted. And I wanted to have a household where my kids could feel safe, to say what they need to say without me flipping my lid, right? And so, in that moment, this is really where CARES began, the approach that I shared with you, is the letter C is catching myself. And so I just started learning how to catch myself when I was angry or mad, that sort of thing. Now, I don't want to make this sound like it's so easy peasy, lemon squeezy, because it's not. But that is really the beginning of what I teach other moms now how to do. That took me so long how to figure out how to do. But is really learning those signs that are in your body, those signals that are there most times. Because sometimes we lose our cool, bloop, lickety split, we're there before we know it, right? That's the human nature. But oftentimes there are signs and signals and sensations and thoughts that are showing up that are letting us know you're about to lose it. And so when we can get really attuned to that, that's when we begin to yell less.
So, and this is absolutely a normal feeling, right? We shouldn't feel guilty if we lose our cool or yell or feel, have those emotions and feelings. And sometimes it's like over what seems like nothing. It's just everything somehow all of a sudden compiled. So first and foremost, we shouldn't hold any guilt about that. That's a normal feeling. No. Everybody feels it, right?
No. Yep. Yes. I mean, it's the stress response, right? I mean, and, today also, I mean, we used to have a whole village around us, grandparents and moms and sisters to help us, right? But most of us are on our own, probably maybe even working outside the home also, and just there's so much stress and pressure. So it's really being able to also segue into the importance of understanding how are you doing your self-care? How are you taking care of yourself? Self-care is seems like very niche kind of like, or what's the word I want? Cliche.
Yeah.
Kind of, right? Like, who have time for self-care?
Right.
But we're talking about like nourishing your body. Like, we're talking even basic needs. Like, we are so apt to put ourselves in the back burner and just do all the things. And we just completely deplete ourselves. And we don't even have the bandwidth. So this is part of noticing where you're at. Like, I'm at a level 4, being able to be aware of that and go, okay, what do I need to do? Bring myself down to a 3. So I don't lose my cool over a bonk head in the nose, right? So it is very much awareness and understanding your needs, and just being able to meet them so that you can actually effectively meet your kids' needs and where they're at.
Yeah. So when you're saying like catch yourself, so you're saying be aware, like, I know this is coming. I'm starting to feel overwhelmed or anxious. There's too many sensory things happening, whatever it may be. Right. So we're just being aware of ourselves, right? That's what you mean by catching ourselves, right?
Yes. And that is just the beginning, right? So the letter C is catching yourself. We have choosing to stop. Choosing to stop is hard to do when you're not aware. So we always start with awareness. We talk about the stress responses. What are your default patterns? Like, what do you feel when this happens? Lots of reflection. With that awareness comes information. And with that information, we now can make a plan. The second part of C is calling it out. When you said we shouldn't feel guilty, this is how we feel, 100%. How you feel is valid. And oftentimes there's I shouldn't feel this way. I wanted this. Right? This is what I signed up for. Right?
Yeah.
But we have these feelings, these emotions, and they're valid. We need to acknowledge them. Okay, I'm feeling this way. And so that in of itself can really reduce the stress and tension in our body just by acknowledging, I am completely overwhelmed right now. And then the third part would be about creating space. How do we calm our bodies back down? What do we need? Maybe we need a glass of water. When was the last time you ate? Right? Or maybe we just need to go outside to take a deep breath of fresh air and just get back into, it doesn't take much to really kind of continually bring ourselves back to a place where we're kind of clear and calm so that we can approach those challenging moments, because they're challenging.
Yeah.
But it's learning how to catch yourself in those moments like, okay, I'm going there. And never mind the fact of life stressors. I mean, there's relationships, there's jobs, there's finances, right? And so these are all things that we just really do need to be aware of for ourselves, and where are we at and how are we doing?
Yeah. And I
And
think
that's the letter C.
and that, I mean, that makes sense. I think for me, it took me a long time to realize, and I had to really start thinking, why am I getting so frustrated at this time of day every day, And for me to realize that too much noise happening when I'm trying to cook dinner just starts to stress me out. So I don't turn on, we ask the kids to leave the TV off, or we play music or something like that. And just that little change of just being aware of this is something that just adds to my level of frustration right now, that is going to make me more likely to yell when my kids get in a fight with each other or something like that.
Yeah.
I like what you said too about just sometimes it's just getting a glass of water, because especially when we're parenting littles, we think, we can't just walk away from the situation, right? We have to be there. We have to be present. We have to be in charge and in control. So it's not like I'm going to go for a spa day to cool down.
No,
I mean, that's fantastic if you can, right? But,
100%,
but that's not what we necessarily always need.
No, and I 100% recommend, like, if you can do that, great. But you're right, especially with littles, it is hard to do. It's hard to break away. In my ebook that I have, one of the top reasons why moms are still yelling is that they're putting everybody's needs before their own, even their basic needs. So when you're talking about that glass of water, right? When was the last time you made breakfast and it's still sitting there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever, and any of your listeners, have you ever had to pee but did not go for over an hour because your kids or someone else needed something else, and you just go do that thing before you go?
Yeah.
Go, right? So when we're talking even basic needs, how much we dismiss ourselves, right? And these are just basic needs that everyone has a right to, right? So really being able to do those things for yourself so that you can meet someone else where they're at in a much more calm way, right? And steady way. Yeah.
So after we catch ourselves, right? We are aware of the surroundings and where this is heading. How do we stop ourselves from going down that path? Besides, getting a drink of water, what's our next step?
Okay, so that leads us naturally into the letter A, which is assessing. Okay, so letter A really can be done either in the moment or it can be done outside the moment. And oftentimes it's done outside the moment, especially in the beginning. Because when we start this work in the beginning, oftentimes we're doing a lot of this work outside the moment. We're gathering that information. Okay? In assessing, we are figuring out, we're getting more clear about what else is going on. And there's 3 parts of the letter A. There's you, there's your child, and then there's what I call the situation. Okay, so really, and here's the thing: people will say, "Well, Claire, that takes a lot of time." Oh my gosh, this is a lot of work. I'm like, yeah, it is. You can either spend your time in the chaos and the conflict and stay there, or spend your time doing this. That will eventually allow you to create a new default pattern and stay calmer, even when things are challenging. Because remember, calm does not necessarily mean rainbows and unicorns, everything's happy. Calm is being able to think clearly and know what to do next, and with confidence. So assessing is really breaking down what's your situation. Like, really, this is where we're like, oh wow, when was the last time I ate? Am I hungry? Am I angry about something else? Am I lonely? That's the HALT acronym. Am I tired? Have I even been sleeping? Or it could even be even more like, wow, I really need to learn how to put a boundary here. Or I just need some connection. So the assessing, like, what do I need? What's going on for me? Acknowledging that's you. And then separating you from your child, because your child is having their own experience. And oftentimes we think it's the same. So I don't want to get too deep into the letter A. There's a lot there. But then when we have the situation is sometimes we have an actual problem that we need to solve. But we want to be able to really see what's happening for me, what's happening for my child, what do they need before we go solve the problem. So then we get into the letter R, which I'll run through it here. But the letter R is remembering the relationship. The relationship is the glue. This is what we all want. We are meant to be connected with one another. But when we can do the CA part for ourselves, the letter R is remembering the relationship. We don't spend a whole lot of time there because the letter R is actually an active choice. It's like, I'm going to choose the relationship right now over being right. Even though I might be right. I might be right. But right now, I'm going to choose to be in a relationship with my kiddo. I'm going to respond to them rather than react. I'm going to release the need to have control, right? It literally is the thing that is what flips the script from being about me, that's CA, to being about we. And now we're in engagement, the letter E, engaging with our kids. We're empathizing, we're exploring, we're empowering them through curiosity questions, asking questions. There's all kinds of tools and ways we communicate, speak out, right? To speak in a way that's effective, getting their perspective, understanding what's happening. When our kids feel that we have seen their perspective, they are so much more receptive to what we have to say, which is in the letter S, which is seeking resolution, solving problems. This is where we're doing these things together because the kids now have felt seen by you. They are more likely to work with you and collaborate in the letter S. Yeah. And so that letter A, the situation, this is where that's dealt with in the letter S. Like the situation, we have a problem, let's solve this together. So it's really an approach. I call it an approach because I really don't believe that there's a checklist where you do these 5 things, you're good to go, right? Because you can be in the letter E with your kiddos engaging and they give you the eye roll, right? Yeah. Or they say something and you're like, whoo, trigger, you're back up in the C, right? So then you're still having to now catch yourself, call it out, bring yourself back down so you can get back into that relationship and back into engaging. So it's really understanding that it's an approach, but where are you in the curve to be able to be in that relationship with your kids?
Yeah. I think what you said about respond rather than react, that I need to put that like on a sticky note or somewhere that I see that all the time because it is in our nature to react to situations, especially things that are in a negative situation. And that's where we oftentimes make mistakes and have regrets. But, and then I just wanted to add to what you said about once they know that we see their perspective, and that's universal, right? That's not just with our kids, that's with anybody. Everybody just wants to feel understood. And I was watching something about de-escalating arguments with adults, basically. And it was saying that the best way to do that is, even if you don't agree, just say, I see what you're saying there. I will give that some thought or something like that. And then can automatically puts the other person's defenses down because they feel understood. So I had never really carried that over though to my relationship with my kids. So I'm really glad you said that because that's so important for them to feel seen and heard and understood, especially by us.
Yes. And I love what you just said, like, even though you don't agree. And so that's the other thing I think parents might get hung up on is, wait, what? If I just release the need to be right and I go and engage with them, doesn't that just let them think they can get away with it? No. You can hold a boundary. This is kind and firm, but while also listening to what they're saying, you don't have to agree. You're taking the time. And then when we get to the letter F, this is where you can hold the boundary. Like, oh, I get it. And you really want to do this. And also this is the boundary. How do we make this work? Right. And so but we can't do that from the letter C in reactive state because we're not thinking clearly. They're not thinking clearly. I call it the red zone party. There's nothing good happening in the red zone party. Nobody's hearing anybody. Nobody's listening to anybody. And so it's really understanding where you're at. And going back to what I said about the green zone doesn't mean rainbows and unicorns. It just means clarity and being able to think. Yeah.
I think that for me personally, it's hard not to react, right? But to find the solution right away. This is a problem. We have to address this right now. And that's a unique mind shift that we have to be really aware of because it is our nature to fix things, right? That's what we do as moms all day long. But putting that at the forefront is where it seems like maybe that's what's leading us astray.
Yes, I love that you brought that up. One of the key mistakes parents are making, I hate to say mistake, but it is a very common one, is that we feel like we need to fix this right now. We are
Mhm.
dealing with this now, because if we don't, oh my gosh, what I call the mental movie, they're going to be this age doing this, or they're going to be down there doing that. And
Yeah.
oh my gosh, and then they'll be doing this. And we go down this road and the kid's only 5, right? And so we've already created this whole scenario, so we have to fix it now. And so that's actually not true. The most effective way to address a problem with your child is when they're back in the green zone also. And so if your kiddo is dysregulated, they're upset and they're activated, that's not the time to try to teach and guide. You could
Right.
actually even be making it worse. So their nervous system, their body has to come back to calm. And that connection with them is going to make them want to be with you and work with you. It can feel very counterintuitive, but most safety aside, of course, we're not talking about safety issues,
Hmm.
but
Right.
most times that teaching happens after the fact and is usually repetitive.
Yeah.
It's something that needs to be repeated as they grow and learn these life skills. So you're right.
And what do
That,
you say to the parent who has been a yeller and now they're seeing their child follow suit? How do we communicate with our kids this idea of cares and this approach in a way to help them understand? I mean, obviously,
yeah,
it's modeling the behavior we want them to exude, but how do we talk to them
yeah,
about it if we're seeing that they're yellers?
yeah. Well, first, forgive yourself. Have a lot of self-compassion. Okay, this is why we're talking about skill versus will. Like, this is a skill you need to learn also. And so as you learn this skill, they'll be teaching them the same skill also. It's never too late. It's never too late. I just want to put that out there. But the conversation can be what I said earlier is the repairing of the ruptures, is really owning up to your own mistake, not beating yourself up about it, right? And but going, you know what? I yelled at you yesterday, and I'm so sorry I yelled. That must have felt really terrible, huh? When I yelled at you, I'm going to try to do better. I hope you can accept my apology. Next time this happens, like maybe we're trying to get out the door, like maybe you actually have a problem. Next time we're trying to get out the door, what do you think we can do? But you own your part of it and you really allow them to either, and here's the thing, if they're like, most kids are so forgiving, they're like, it's okay, but really owning it. And you want to make sure you're not saying, well, if you only listen to me, that wouldn't happen. Because then that's not really an effective, oh, you're putting it back on them, right?
Right.
So owning the fact that you lost your cool, and I own this, I acknowledge this, and I am so sorry for that. And I promise I'm going to try to do better. And then you don't need to lament and just all the things, because then it just gets a little muddled that way. So being very clear about it, own it, I'm sorry, and continue to try to do better. Them seeing you being able to apologize and be imperfect, that resilience, that ability to learn and grow is really the most powerful teacher for our kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Even though,
Yeah.
and it's hard to admit to ourselves when we're wrong, but definitely hard to admit to our children
Oh,
as well. So,
yeah. Yeah. That guilt is, I mean, the mom guilt thing it really does feel terrible.
yeah,
So it's the practice also. Like I'm doing the best I can. I continue to try and invest in yourself to learn how. It's worth the work.
yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Do you have any other tips or like things that like today, what I can do today that is going to help me be a calmer parent outside of, I
Mm,
mean, or examples that go along with the cares approach or outside of that?
yeah. I think if I were to give someone an active activity today is what I would call the number line. To really, we walk around our days so rotely. We just do our thing. Got to get up, go to school, camp, work, grocery shop, go back, clean the house, all the things. Home, dinner, bath. It's just that we just go through the day. We're not even paying attention to how we actually feel. We might be walking around this close to that mind blown emoji on the telephone that we see, right? But we don't even know it until snap trigger. Someone spills the milk and you're like losing it over
Yeah.
spilt milk, right? So I think one of the my favorite activities, and I actually do this for myself, is checking in with yourself the number between 0 and 5. 0 being you're good, like everything's great, and 5 is that mind blown emoji. It's red zone, you're gone. What number would you give yourself right now? So think about it right now. If you were to think between 0 and 5, checking in with your body, how you feel, emotion, what number would you give yourself at this moment?
Right now, I'd say probably like a 1.
Okay, good. And then you're good, right? So you're good, and you can be doing this throughout the day is really important, because sometimes you might be like, oh wow, I'm at 4. Like I feel my shoulders are tense, my stomach is clenched, I'm really stressed, and I'm not, becoming aware. I'm at a 4. Wow. Okay, what's going on? I'm actually mad about my boss. I'm still upset about this, or I have to pay this bill, and like you just get to acknowledge all that's going on in front of you. And then the question would be, what can I do right now to help bring myself back down, even half a notch or down a notch a number? And maybe it is taking a quick walk around the block. Maybe it is making that phone call you've been putting off. Maybe it is whatever that might be that's going to help you move back down the line. And if we do this on a regular basis, we are self-care. We're acknowledging how we feel. We're taking care of. I mean, it really is powerful in helping us not be that pressure cooker boop yeller, or frequent flyer yeller. The two different kinds of yellers, right? But we're not aware that we're living there. So that number line check-in, doing that 2-3 times a day, just ask yourself, what number am I at? Wow, like I need to go do XYZ, and then go do the thing. Those little things throughout the day mean more than you know in helping you keep your level down lower, so that you're not losing your cool in a parenting situation that typically you may not have lost your cool with, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And it sounds like also so that's something we could use with our kids, with our older kids, right? Of asking them, or, I mean, even the younger kids, asking them the same questions. And I like that you said like our shoulders tense or things like that, because oftentimes I don't think about the physical ways that we're experiencing or demonstrating stress. We don't, we just do it. We're not aware necessarily.
Yeah. It's funny you should say that. When I was beginning this, and I was like, gosh, I'm mad. Why am I mad? But then the more the work I did, I started realizing that I had default patterns that I would do that I didn't realize that I would do when I was getting activated. And so once I recognized those, I started being able to catch myself. And one of the things actually came to me because my husband told me I did it, is I would stamp my feet. Like I would stamp my foot. Like if I was getting frustrated, I didn't even know I was doing it. But so then it was just like, oh wow, I do that. Like, so this physical like action would give me a clue that okay, you're about to lose it. Like you're approaching. So okay, take a deep breath. What's going on? Like what am I so frustrated about? And so that being able to realize, oh my gosh, my shoulders are so tight. What are the things that we all have our default patterns and signs. Becoming aware of those can be really helpful.
And we're probably not aware of them, just like you said,
No,
but the people
we're
around
walking
us
along.
probably are.
Yeah, right.
Like things that my son does when I know he's getting frustrated, but not.
Yes.
So
I love it you said that, because that's part of the work that I do is I help parents see their kiddo default patterns so that you actually can help them recognize and how to help them, self-regulate when so it's really powerful, this understanding of what's actually happening and why, and our unique triggers and things that we do. It's really a great thing to do.
Yeah. Well, and so Claire, this has been really insightful. And I know that, the CARES approach is something that we can all start thinking about and being aware of each day as we're working on this skill. But like you said, it is absolutely a skill. And some of us might need a little bit more hand holding on this. So this is what you do, right?
Yeah. I do this in my one-on-one coaching. I also have what I call Mama's Tribe. It's a monthly membership where moms can come in and get the support with other moms and me as well. And it is a process. And I love when moms will get to the point where they're saying, wow, I can't remember the last time I yelled. And that is amazing, because I know personally, firsthand, what an impact that will have, a positive impact that will have on your relationship with your kiddos, not just now, but when they're older. Like the relationship I have with my kids now, I know would be so different had I not learned how to stop the rage and really navigate that to a place and get myself to a place where I could take care of myself and understand myself. Dan Siegel has a great quote that's called the greatest indicator, and I'm going to paraphrase, I'm probably not going to say it correctly, but the greatest indicator of your child's well-being is the level of the parent's self-understanding.
All right, say that again. The greatest
indicator of your child's overall well-being, so how well your child will do, is the level of the parent's self-understanding. So understanding yourself. So this goes back to what I'm talking about in the letter C of really understanding your triggers and why does it get you so upset, and well, how do I take care of myself? And it's really powerful to be able to do that. The more we can understand ourselves and learn what we need and take care of ourselves, the better our children will be for it, because we can yell less, right? We can be calmer and approach in a more responsive way rather than reactive. It's really powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've all probably heard the phrase before, like we can't fill somebody else's cup if ours is empty, which is a nice visual, but it's so easy to forget in the day to day, and so important, right? That we are keeping ourselves healthy and happy, and you know, in order to be the parents that we want to be, we have to focus on ourselves, and it's not selfish to do so, and it's actually a necessity, right?
It is. Yes, absolutely.
Well, we really appreciate your time, Claire, and we'll make sure we link to all your socials and your website in the show notes. So if you're interested in learning more about Claire's strategies and working with her, you can certainly check that link below and get all the information there. And as we all go forth today, trying to do a little less yelling, right?
Remember the number line. Check your number. See where you're at.
Check your number. Yes. I will. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Claire.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
If you are looking for more ways to build communication skills in your kids, grab our free mini lesson on how to craft a polished and professional speech out of thin air, along with 52 fun prompts so your kids can practice every single week. You can find that along with info about our upcoming public speaking and debate courses for kids at greencommunicationsedu.com.